Welcome Transformers, Autobots, and Decepticons. Today we're going to talk about what might be happening with Transformers Reactivate. While it took me some time to try and make this video, I hope it's not too long for you guys, and I'll try to talk as quickly as I can with informative information. What I'll be talking about is purely speculation, but also at the same time it gives you guys as a viewer an insight on what might be happening behind the scenes as an industry perspective. This might be coming from somebody that has launched many AAA games before and knows the industry a lot better than myself. So today, we will be taking an inside look as to what to expect going forward and key indicators to be on the lookout for, and help you better understand the reality of what might be going on with Transformers Reactivate. Before we get started, of course, please take some time, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, ring that notification bell to know when my next video goes live. We have the latest and greatest news on Transformers Reactivate as it comes out, and I would love for you to take some time to join me on that journey. Right off the bat, before Summer Games Festival, we had an official website for Transformers Reactivate change or update. On top of that, over the course of this past week, we have seen all forms of social media remove the 2022 announcement trailer. Most were unlisted or completely delisted from the YouTube page or social media page. People instantly go negative when things like this happen because ultimately it is never a good sign when things like this happen. However, it could be happening. What might be happening is that Splash Damage is waiting until the Game Awards and everything else event-wise just calms down a little bit for them to be able to shadow drop, or even an event where it wouldn't overshadow Transformers Reactivate. Personally, for me, I think it is a missed opportunity, but also at the same time, after seeing how much money a company has poured into this game, and seeing how much money, of course, that the Game Awards is for each trailer, and allotment slot for a game trailer to be at the Game Awards or Summer Games Fest is absolutely ridiculous. So it would make more sense for the game to share things when things are a little bit on the quieter side of things within the gaming industry. Some companies take a step back in development and look at how are we going to spend that next $2 million we just received from an investor to continue developing the game. How can that money be used to improve the game and push it forward? Which is a very real possibility as well as to why Splash Damage has taken the time to change things up with the game, which would also be a great sign for the game to go forward. What Splash Damage might have received was 2.5 levels, being New York, Chicago, and a little bit of the Himalayas or Zone 4 or Zone 3 or whatever it is that they were trying to develop at that time, which isn't enough for a game. Not a great economy, gameplay loop, and entertaining enough for a player to want to say, yes, I will return to the game and invest into it. Originally, when they first received the game, they were probably thinking just, hey, let's just push this game out the door as quickly as we can. But after improving upon the game, they may have realized that, hey, we have a big game on our hands, a massive IP. Let's give this our all and see what we can do to improve upon this game and as we go forward in development. The biggest problem with Splash Damage is that they started out as a support studio, just like Certain Affinity, purely a skeleton crew. If you look at the similarities, Certain Affinity was also a support studio and hasn't really launched any big AAA name games before. When they had the Transformers IP, they probably were expecting to launch the game, but unfortunately turned a blind eye to how development should have gone, getting better leadership and development in positions that weren't as green. Taking the feedback from Liu and of course from Hasbro without constantly blowing the budget. There was a lot of issues during the time that Certain Affinity was developing the game, but they thought they were doing well, but there was obviously many issues involved. Splash Damage is also facing a similar issue, or at least they did in the past, where they were a support studio and they were just handed the game. They may have launched games before, but not games with a massive title with Transformers IP with that AAA sticker attached to it. When Certain Affinity had the game, Tencent was the big cash cow investor on the game. It may not be public information, but it's true. Tencent is no doubt also investing on the Transformers IP, investing Splash Damage to build this game, and not only make Hasbro money, but also make Tencent money as well. When Tencent had the IP there with their Chinese Overwatch knockoff, it actually did well but didn't have enough population to sustain the game, among other reasons. Unfortunately, it never made its way to the Western market and ultimately shut down. This game is obviously not related to Transformers Reactivate in any way and not tied to each other at all. Now, Tencent has the IP again after purchasing Liu, and Liu of course owned Splash Damage, a subsidiary company back then. They can pour all the money in the world to potentially make this the next big Warframe. Now, I don't think Transformers Reactivate could be or bring in as much money as Warframe, but it could play or be very similar to Warframe in a sense. Tencent doesn't exactly fully understand the Western market, so their goal would be to pour stupid amounts of money into Transformers Reactivate in order to see where that ultimately ends up going. However, anything can change within the next year. We have noticed Bulkhead being pushed off the project to work on other things. This is either a good sign or a bad sign. One, it could be that they don't need all that help because they really are that far into development and don't need all of the artists and designers to keep changing things on the game. Moving them into another project would make the most sense, of course, because and of course without laying them off. So that would make the most sense to me, is what's actually going on that side of things. The next point I want to bring up is the fact that you as a viewer need to be looking at the signs throughout June and July, especially going forward. You say why? Because if we don't see anything major happen, such as layoffs or employees being fired or things being taken down off of the Splash Damage website or the official website for Transformers Reactivate being taken down, that is a massive indicator that this game is still in development, and it is a good sign. When you think about it, you may say, whoa, how is that a good sign, Robo? Well, like we have pointed out so far, no layoffs. They know this game is going to be big if they continue to develop it. And as long as Tencent and Hasbro see it as profitable, then you know the game's going to continue. If we do hear something officially news-wise, then we know it might be a confirmation of the game either being canceled, but we also know that the fiscal year is ending at the end of June, so that's what we have to look out for, and the start of a new one, which would indicate that new lump sum of money for the game to continue development. After personally taking a step back to realize what might be happening and getting informative info on things that potentially are going on in the industry surrounding Transformers Reactivate, my thoughts are, I don't care if the game takes another 2 years, and I think you guys should be thinking the same. It would be nice to have small things shared regarding the game, no matter where it is in development, and the communication definitely needs to improve. That is one big thing that I think needs to happen. But at the same time, I don't want to see the game that has issues with frames per second and various other glitches and things going on when it's being showcased around the world to many other games and event studios that are going on. Things like that, I don't enjoy seeing games that are like having issues when they're being showcased for the first time. They're throwing out a game trailer or something when it's not ready, and that's what just irks me to no end. But sometimes it could look good to look back at things and then see the way they've changed over time and where it ultimately ends up. That is always a fun thing to see. The other thing I take into account is appealing to your mainstream media audience, which, while you want to appeal to your core fans, the Transformers fans being that, also you want to appeal to the players familiar with that game genre or close to it. I feel like MMO players, Destiny players, and in between would be that great target audience. Who knows what Splash Damage is targeting right now? The average person may not think of the High Moon Studio games at all, or they'll think of it as the Transformers games as B tier at best. Even though they were highly regarded games for their storytelling, multiplayer PvP, and PvE game modes, the average person may never have heard of these games back in 2010 and 2012. For us as Transformers fans, we are such a small demographic compared to the many other players across the world with games that reach into the millions. Look at the announcement trailer as a prime example. Most people didn't even know this was a Transformers game until that title card showed up. They thought it was a new first-person shooter or the next Titanfall game, which none of that is true. This game is very much a Transformers game and a third-person shooter. With the amount of money that has been poured into this game, I can't see Hasbro or Tencent dropping this game easily at all. Splash Damage has to figure out what kind of mass market audience they can appeal to so that the game can thrive. I've talked about it in the past, but Splash Damage needs to appeal not just to Transformers fans, but to what others outside of this small niche community wants to see as well. Also, as long as it doesn't get away from what Transformers has always stood for, or doesn't tell a story that would destroy the writing for the game, we don't want another Earthspark situation on our hands. We really don't. Plus, Hasbro is trying to make money. That they are a toy company, not a gaming company, guys. They are figuring out how to navigate releasing figures off of this game for mass marketing. They are a plastic company through and through. You might talk about why not just bring back the High Moon Studios games, cancel this game, and while most of the people that played those games back in the day are adults now, you have to think about that, and may even have kids, right? They don't have time to go back to these old games. Now, sure, it would be great, but I think that despite me, even myself, being a young adult and loving those games, they are technically dead. Even if they were to revive it, it wouldn't last long unless it had something massive to appeal to it, like new DLC, new characters, and the graphics engine would need an update and a massive graphical overhaul. They would also need to even locate and fix some of the bugs that existed in the previous games. Like, there's so many things that you have to think about with completely updating those games. You can't just do a Rise of the Darkspark situation. Like, that was the most terrible decision in my personal opinion. Even though, like, story was subpar, decent at best, like the way they even threw out the escalation and the way they did, I mean, escalation was good, but the multiplayer, just throwing that out completely, I was very sad to see that. I wish that they did updated things with that game, brought in some of the old multiplayer maps, or even redid some of the multiplayer maps, but I feel like that game was very rushed, and they still could have included multiplayer and made another multiplayer game that everybody could enjoy. So that's just my thoughts. But regardless, I mean, I still love the High Moon Studios games. It's just, it sucks the population won't be the same. As we jump into our reasons for Transformers Reactivate, we could also start to think about the effects of Unreal Engine 5. The port most likely is complete. However, even updating engines or versions could get Splash Damage into trouble. Think about Ashes of Creation or various other games I have been in an alpha test for where DLSS was disabled. If you don't know what DLSS is, it's basically worked with memory in your GPU for that cache and mathematically handles it in a way that would distribute it across the CPU cores on that GPU for rendering out textures or shaders to properly show that in-game at a faster rate and improve your frames per second. If you do more research, you'll get a better understanding of how all of that works. However, it's possible that there might be people on the team that are green or don't have as much experience compared to a lot of other veterans in the studio that have AAA experience on how to fix those issues or the cycle of development. On top of that, Unreal Engine 5 is still a relatively new engine and studios are still battling and dealing with the issues of Unreal Engine 5. Especially if the game was updated, you don't know if tools or features could have changed where it previously used to be located and potentially even unbalance the game to a point of fixing more bugs and issues with the game. Hopefully there's checks for that kind of stuff, but you know. So that is just another point to bring into play and why development takes so long to complete or move forward. It also goes to show that the developers like Splash Damage take pride in their work and don't want to show something that is unfinished. It may seem like I'm trying to white knight this whole situation we are facing right now, but at the same time, if it wasn't for leaks, we probably wouldn't be in this desperate situation of wanting to know more. Unfortunately, 95% of the information everyone knows from content creators or just articles in general knows nothing about the game, and it's all certain affinity information. And Splash Damage is basically lock and key. I have personally been wrong before, not properly verifying some sources, and I will admit that to everyone. I've said it in the Re-Energized Discord and voice chat before in the past, and I'll say it to you guys here today. I try to share it as I hear it, and even I am subject to being thrown for a loop. Footage or screenshots being taken from me or someone else and misinterpreted or being used to spread misinformation, and that is what I do not want to see. That's why I will tell everyone to take verbal info as a grain of salt, from myself or anyone else out there, and I'll keep saying it until it is drilled into people's heads and they understand it. I used to say it in the past, but I'll say it here again. Unless you see concrete information, evidence, like the 2024 forthcoming or the platforms, stuff like that, don't take it until you see it as fact, until it's proven otherwise visually in front of you. Some will claim to have gameplay of Unreal Engine 5, and I wouldn't be surprised, but still, it comes down to actually seeing proof of it. To be perfectly honest, I would rather it come from the developers officially. That is where I personally stand, because I may be sounding like a hypocrite for this by leaking the information in the past, but that's why I don't want to leak full-on gameplay, because things like that aren't finished. And that is why you see those idle animations and various things like that that are just small tidbits of stuff, and they're not full-on gameplay. Because what if people come back to that old footage and they say, oh hey, but why doesn't the game play like this? Oh, the game's trash because it played like that before and it was so much better than the way it plays now. Why wasn't it like that? Things like that, right? Like you'll hear those kind of comments, and if gameplay were to get out or footage or stuff like that, people will start to question things, and it's not splash damage. And until you see it otherwise, people are throwing you for a loop, pulling your leg, whatever you want to call it. You wait until splash damage, concrete evidence from them comes out, and that is what I'm going by, and that's what I'm going to stand by from here and today forward. To backtrack everything, I go back to thinking about, where does this leave us, guys? Well, we know for a fact that nothing has happened yet. Zero layoffs, nothing has been removed yet, which is the biggest green light indicator. Final conclusions, I think maybe they have pushed back the game a little bit, and we might see the beta, maybe, who knows, sometime later this year, maybe at the end of the year as a guesstimate. We unfortunately don't know any of that information until the game is re-announced with new visuals, new story, and that's what I'm thinking maybe they're doing now, is maybe those previous visuals in the 2022 announcement trailer don't coincide with what the game is like today. And of course, seeing that beta date come out of a trailer, and of course a rough release date, who knows, maybe in 2025, just like the Hasbro brand manager said from Australia. A lot of bigger content creators than myself have already given up on the game. I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is to go and play other games, just like me. Until we hear official word or concrete evidence, jump in on other games that you're passionate about, like myself. For me, it is jumping back and playing Final Fantasy XIV. I know I keep referencing it, and I would love to see things like, if there are really going to be raids, I think that should be endgame content, even if it wasn't before in Certain Affinities build. I think that it should be in Splash Damage's build. I think there should be that great endgame loop, things to bring people back to, the cosmetics, the skins, that sort of thing. Look at Final Fantasy XIV. Why is it so successful? Sorry. It's the reason for, like, there's all those amazing cosmetics in the game. Endgame is cosmetics, and that's what a lot of people go by, is like they fight for that challenging content, that good gameplay, to get that amazing weapon, that amazing gear, that sort of thing. And that's where my information and my head knowledge goes to, is Final Fantasy XIV, and then that's what I like to reference, even though it's an MMO and versus a live service game. Maybe they'll change the genre, who knows, but like, it's just one of those things where rating is big to me. PvE is big to me. You can add PvP later, and I think that's maybe what Transformers fans want in the future, but don't throw it out right in the beginning. Solidify yourself in PvE and that kind of content, and then eventually step into the toes of PvP and what made the previous games great, and try and implement that into the game. That's where my head knowledge goes to, and I love rating, and I'm super extremely passionate, and I would love for you guys to join me in a couple weeks when I jump into all of that rating and content on Final Fantasy XIV. There's going to be a lot of awesome laughs, and I've had over the past 10 years of playing this game, and it's just one of those things that I want to see even in Transformers Reactivate, is going 10 years of amazing laughs and experiences and memories with so many different people across a game, and do those 10-year experiences. And that's what I want to see in Transformers Reactivate as well. and in Final Fantasy 14. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'm super passionate about 14, and if you guys want to join me and wait until Transformers Reactivate for that kind of stuff and any new information that may come in the future, guys, please be sure to like and comment and subscribe. You won't want to miss any new Reactivate content that comes here on my channel. And of course, for Final Fantasy 14, I am super excited to jump into those games and any future games that I may share here on my channel. Until then, guys, maybe a little bit of a break on Reactivate so that we can take a step back, take in all this information, and then go forward with it in the near future. Until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative to you. If it wasn't, you can dislike. Who cares? But then that gives me a good idea as to, like, was it informative? Was it information that you guys want to hear, that you guys want to know about, and that sort of thing? And of course, going forward with all the new updates, gameplays, guides, more, you name it, I'm here for it, for Transformers Reactivate and beyond. Thank you so much for watching. This is RoboGamer1 HD signing off. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you guys on the battlefield. All right, peace out.
Kill.
Third set. Yes! Oh my gosh! Yeah! Hell yeah! That was so close! Oh my gosh!
Look at all these. Holy shit!
Oh, my heart's racing.
I'm rewatching the cutscene. I love it.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Look at all these losers watching the cutscene.
Oh.
Even Makino's watching it.
You learning something new today, Makino?
I'm shaking beyond.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Go, yes.
I love you guys.